Good morning. My name is Nancy Ross. I am a GIS analyst from Mecklenburg County. I have been working in GIS for almost 32 years, ever since kindergarten. And the last 3 years I've been working for Mecklenburg County. I'm sort of also known as the Story Map Diva because it's one of my favorite things to work on and to talk about. So today we're going to talk about how Mecklenburg County uses story maps to enhance our community outreach. Did you know that hundreds, if not thousands, of story maps are published every week? The first story map was published in 2011, and since then there have been 800,000 story maps published on ArcGIS Online, and that doesn't even count the ones that are on private servers. So I want to take a quick survey. Raise your hand if you have ever published a story map. Awesome. Now, raise your hand if you've ever published a story map specifically for community engagement. Okay, that's kind of what I was expecting. Not so many people do that. And so today, I really want to encourage you, by the end of the talk, hopefully you'll be inspired to go back to your communities and use this tool for your community engagement efforts. So today I'm going to be covering 5 topics. I'm going to talk about why use story maps, why story maps are a powerful tool for community engagement. I'll talk a little bit about our capital improvement project story map, what you can learn from our experience, and about making a story map accessible. So why use story maps in the first place? As most of you know, because a lot of hands were raised because you've done one, they are easy to use with no programming experience needed. It's an out-of-the-box solution for storytelling in a variety of formats to fit your needs. There are a ton of online resources, from step-by-step instructions to custom coding help. And you can integrate all sorts of media, maps, pictures, videos, links, and more to engage the customers and engage your community with great graphics. And it's visually captivating. By integrating focus maps with videos and pictures and more, you create a story that leaps from the pages. This is a sample of some of the story maps that we've done in the last couple of years at Mecklenburg County. We've published over a dozen. I did add a couple of number of views on here. The one I'm talking about today is Capital Improvement Plan. That has been up and published since late January. We've had about 1,000 views. I would bet at least half of those are mine, just working on them. And when we did our early voting for the 2016 election, we had over 55,000 views of that. So some are more successful than others. Publishing them and getting the word out that you've got those is critical to that view as well. Plus, if people are interested in it or not, they're going to use that. So, oops, went too far. In Mecklenburg County, we've used a variety of the templates available. In these stories here, I've used videos, pictures, maps, links, all sorts of interactive features and graphics to capture the reader's attention and to convey the story. Many, if not all, actually do include a community engagement factor. So to summarize, why use it? It's a great out-of-the-box solution to tell your story in an engaging and community-friendly manner. So the next step, why use story maps for community engagement? As public servants, it's important for us to engage our citizens. We want to create a way for our citizens to easily get information about their government, community issues, and to get them involved. Stories are a language that everybody understands, so story maps are a great tool to engage your community in a topic of interest. And since no GIS knowledge is necessary to view and interact with a story map, it's accessible to most, if not all, of our citizens. And use of multimedia can be a powerful tool for understanding. And transparency is increased by making a complicated topic, such as a budget, easier to access and visualize. By including maps and pictures, we can make these dull numbers of a budget come alive. We can also encourage participation through surveys and links for them to get involved. So, in quick summary, story maps are a great tool for community engagement. So in 2017, the budget department came to us and wanted to create a tool to help citizens understand our new capital improvement plan. We were spending, I think it's $1.57 billion of their money. We wanted to make sure they understood where that money was going to go. We have an existing app that was for our 2014-2018. It was web app builder based. It worked great. But what they want is something that included more multimedia. And they also wanted to make that budget book, that 611-page budget book, they wanted to make it more accessible. The individual project detail sheets start at page 460. And your average citizen isn't going to wade through that. They want something quick to be able to see something. So these were the main things that they wanted to see. They wanted to use a cascade story map. They wanted to have an overview of funding, an overview of the whole background. They wanted interactive maps where people can pan and zoom and look in their neighborhood, see what projects were in their neighborhood. And they wanted to include resources and links so that the community person could go the next step. So this is the current site that we have that Todd built. Like I said, it's web app builder. They can search for an address. They can zoom in. It's color-coded by the year it starts and the symbolized by the type of project it is. And it functions great, but they wanted something to tell more about an in-depth story. So after searching for ideas and showing the budget team sample sites, they chose the Cascade Story Map because it's a rich immersion style. There's so much you can do as far as adding a lot more text there. The CIP has 8 sections. It has an introduction that's called Our Capital Improvement Plan. It has the background information. It has charts and graphs for where the budget is, each section by year, and it has a pie chart for where the money's coming from, where it's going and where it's coming from. And then it has 5 sections that cover each of the 5 project areas. In the county, their CIP budget is split into 5 areas. It's either government facilities, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, park and recreation, the main library, or Central Piedmont Community College. So there's a section that is very similar between all of them for those. And then finally, my favorite, the Learn More, that's where all sorts of information is in there, and I'll demo that. So I just want to get into the heart of it. Let's go take a tour. The first thing you see when you bring it up is a picture of a building that is now constructed, but at the time it was, All right. I don't have one of these, so I'm going to push the wrong button.
I think all we've got to do is downsize this.
Awesome.
And F11 will give it.
All right, I might need you back up to get me back the other place. Okay, now the question is, how do I get it scrolling? You guys see it up there, but I have nothing on my screen.
You can just use the arrow.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Sorry if I scrolled.
I'm a software person. I am not a hardware person, so I apologize. Like I said, it has an intro section. It has some charts and graphs so people can see here's the base numbers of our projects. Here's how the money is allocated. As usual, it mostly goes to the school system. There's very, very, very little about funding the plan. The money either comes from cash on hand or borrowing. The cool part for us, mapping the plan, all of the mappable projects are on here. They can click on them and see base information such as the department, the estimated start date, a description of the project, that sort of thing if they click on it. And they're also scrolling boxes that come up that give them more information. I can put my own glasses on and make sure I'm getting this correct. It explains to them why not all the projects are on the map, that some are not mappable, some of them because we know that we're going to put a new elementary school in this area, but we haven't determined where that elementary school is going to go. So those aren't on the map. Same thing with some area-wide things. If we're getting new Motorola radios for the sheriff's department, that's not something we can put on a map. So that's explained to them so they don't think, wait a minute, there's not the same number of projects. We explain to them how they're broken out by the 5 project areas. We give them an example of what a pop-up is, which hopefully encourages them to actually interact with the map. And then we included prior and current together on one map, and I made it a different color so that it's obvious to them that this is something different. And I did the same color family, just different kinds of symbols and different sizes, so they could see. If they only see this cycle's 5-year plan, they're going to think, well, you're not doing anything in my neighborhood. But if they look at this together, they can see, okay, you're not doing anything in my neighborhood, but you did a bunch of stuff in the last cycle for my neighborhood. It was actually pretty brilliant of them to do that, to suggest that. And then we have 5 separate, very, very similar sections for each of our capital improvement plan departments. It will include some general information. It will include another chart that is specific to their department. There are some gray areas too, and what the gray means is these are funds that are carrying over from the previous CIP. So we're spending money now that was already allocated and the project is still ongoing. There are pictures in each section to give them ideas of some of what the projects look like. And then there's another map that is just their projects. So if you're only interested in government projects, then you would just go to the government. And I forgot to show you at the top, I think you can see at the very top where it says Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, there is a menu. If you click on that, it will show you the different chapters, and you can go directly to a chapter that way. So again, I also have some zoom-in maps for areas that are clustered, like our downtown area. And then another explanation again about what things are not mapped. We just want to make sure that they know as many times as possible there is more coming that's not on this map. Same thing with Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, park and recreation. Park and Recreation also has a couple of big projects, regional community centers. So what I did was not only have this section, I also have zoom-ins for those 2 particular ones that we want to call special attention to. And we also have information on them here and a link to get involved and learn more. So if they really care about Eastway or Northern recreation centers that's in their neighborhood, they want to have a voice in how that's developed, they can click there and it'll take them to get more information. Main library, it's very simple because there's one project that's replacing our downtown library. Pictures of current and then the vision plan. And then Central Piedmont Community College, which has a lot of overflow funding from the previous year. And I have the map that shows both of them, and then zoom-ins for each individual campus. So again, this is my favorite section, the Learn More. We give our citizens a chance to get back to us and say if they like this tool, what they would recommend, what they'd like to see added. We give them a chance to stay engaged in the process by contacting the Board of County Commissioners. We give them a link to the budget book because if they see this and they think we want to know more, have at it. You can go see that 611-page book. And I also replicate some links that were in the main body of the section, which is the CMS construction contracts page. So if a developer sees, oh, they're going to be building a house here, I want a piece of that pie, they can go directly to CMS and get involved that way. Same thing with the main library page. And a little self-promotion on the finance department's website is they're always looking for citizens to volunteer on the Capital Budget Advisory Commission. when I had to present this to them, they need 9 people on the board. I think they currently have 3 or 4. So they're like, please put something in there about us getting volunteers. And then I also have a link back to the interactive map for 1418 if somebody wants to see that. And it was suggested we add zoning information on the map, and I told them that was a really bad idea. We wanted to keep it super simple and focused on the main topic, which is the project locations. But if somebody wanted more information, we've added the link to Polaris, so they can get zoning and parcel level information on Polaris. You'll always know when the last date it was updated. That keeps us accountable for folks to know when the last time we had our hands on this and when the last time the information changed. And then thank yous at the bottom and links to other departments if people want more. So I'm going to I will have Blake come up and fix it back for me.
And I think if you do...
Yeah, that's good. Yep, we're good. Thank you. Okay, so after a quick run through of the site, I figured I wouldn't bore you with giving you every last detail of the site. You can go back and look at it in detail, especially since we have 20 minutes to get through this. I want to talk about what you can learn from our experience. And I'll cover some things like being flexible, being creative, being ready to learn, and as part of that, how to make your site ADA accessible. So this was our first experience creating a story map for budget. So there was a learning curve on both of our parts. Be prepared to have to explain the tool, tell them how it works and how it can serve their need, and be prepared for a lot of questions on both ends. We did have an issue of lack of response from departmental partners, trying to get pictures from certain, I won't name names, but certain of the 5 categories we had issues getting pictures and high quality imagery and information. So I had to really do a lot more legwork than I probably should have, but I wanted to make sure that the map and the story was as complete as possible. So I had to find some of my own answers. Once it's complete, it's not done. With most things budgetary, I assume. Change is constant. Budgets run over, cost savings are realized, priorities shift. We decided we would set up a pre-planned schedule of updates so expectations were managed. We're going to be doing no more than quarterly updates and one big annual update every June to make sure that's taken care of. So be creative. There's so many different kinds of story maps out there. So many, like I said, there's 800,000 of them out there. Somebody's done something similar to what you want to do. Take a look at how they did it. Take a look at how somebody else did it and kind of bring those ideas together. Just mainly try something new. Sometimes custom coding is helpful. Even though it's not necessary, it is helpful. Since I'm not a programmer, I had to reach out to some of our GIS team that can help with a little bit of custom coding. If you're skilled in this area, you can do some pretty cool things with story maps. But if you're not, you can still do a pretty nice story map. Be ready to learn. You have to learn the workflow to be able to tell their story. I had to learn some of budget department's lingo, how their workflow works. To better tell their story, I had to understand it, at least enough to efficiently communicate it. And I worked with our technology solutions team, specifically Ron, to best figure out how to serve up the data and to make sure that how I was doing it was the best way to make sure it was sustainable and easily maintained. And then I had to go through and get it approved by that committee, and then I had to go through and get it approved by the executive committee, and I had presented to all the county assistant managers. And the very last question was, is it ADA accessible? I didn't know how to answer that because that question has never been asked of a story map I've done. So I said no, but I can check and see how we can do that. So I got with our ADA manager. We have a county manager, county person with the IT department that his whole job is to make sure all of our web stuff is accessible. So I learned a lot from that. There's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at ADA stuff: visual, auditory, mobility, cognitive. There's a lot of different things to think about. But the easiest thing is to add alternative text. Most story maps now have that capability. To add alternative text, you go into your edit mode, you click on the pencil, you click on manage, which looks like a wrench, and then you add descriptive text in the box. And you can kind of see that at the top, and then I'll show you again in a minute. You need to be descriptive as possible without being repetitive, and look online for writing tips on those. And again, this is what it looks like in edit mode. You click on the pencil on the bottom left corner, you click on manage, and then where it looks like a human being, a little round circle, that's where you enter your alternative text. And you do it for every graphic, and there's a way to do it for every single graphic. Motor skills, I'll skip this because this isn't something that we have incorporated yet, but there's issues like keyboard navigation. Some ADA reading software was skipping large blocks of text when you've got a map with 72 points. They want to be able to tab through those points, and if you get a pop-up box, sometimes people have motor skills, they can't X out the box. So that's some stuff that we're hoping to work on. And issues with hyperlinks. When I first did the story map, the budget department wanted me to write the whole URL out. I thought, okay, that's what you want to do. But then the ADA person came and said, oh, heck no, you don't want to do that. So never ever do click here, never do a bit.ly link. Always make it descriptive so it makes sense to your reader what it is. Distinguish it by color and underline. And one thing we're also working on is if you go to an external site, if you click on this link and it brings you to an external site, make sure you have an icon link that says it's going to it. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. We use a software called Level Access. It provides a very long report that tells you everything that's wrong with your site. Here's all these things that need to be adjusted. After review and after all the fixes that I did, we got a score of 89, which he was thrilled with. And you know, if he thought that was sufficient, I was good with that. But we still always want to try to get better. And Esri's taking this stuff very seriously. They have some dedication to federal government 508 standards, which are the ADA accessibility standards. So you will see more and more products come out with ADA capability. So just in conclusion, I've covered why you should use story maps, that they're easy to use and visually captivating. I discussed why story maps are a powerful tool for community engagement, including there's no need for GIS knowledge to interact with them. It's told in a natural language for the public, and it's a great tool for engagement and transparency. I introduced you to our capital improvement plan story map and how it's being used as a tool to reach and engage our community on the difficult subject of budgets. I discussed what you can learn from our experience, and including being flexible, creative, and being ready to learn, and showed you a little bit about making story maps accessible. So I hope I have encouraged you to use story map as part of your community outreach efforts. As public servants, it's our responsibility to engage and inform our citizens, and we all have a story to tell. So I hope you will go back and use a story map to tell your story and engage your community. Thank you. For non-Esri users, one of my coworkers was kind enough to share some of these other sites that you could use if you want to do something non-Esri. When you see the playbacks, all these will be, the slides will be in the information you're sent. And so if you want to take a picture, great. If not, those will be available when you get the feedback from this.
I'm afraid we are at 25 past, so if you have questions for Nancy, you can ask afterwards, but we want to make sure that the next folks have time to set up.